Welcome to all our viewers today. We'll wait a couple of minutes just to make sure that everybody's connected and settled. You've joined us today to discover more about the role of AI in endurance sports training and how Humango is using AI to optimize endurance sports training plans. Again, thanks for joining us. One more minute or two and we'll get started. In the meantime, while we're waiting, Eric and Pav, you recently completed a 7-day cycling tour of France. I believe you covered around 60,000 feet of climbing, double Everest attempt. Can you share some of your highlights of that experience? Maybe start with you, Pav.
For me, it was it was the iconic Coles. I loved that, but I loved the little villages as well. We saw some of the best that France has to offer in the Alps, and it was great to spend time with Eric and his son Sasha, obviously. Yeah, I don't know about you, Eric. What was your favorite part?
I think I loved it from the beginning to the end. I spent most of the time looking at the back of your bike, though, when I was able to see the back of your bike. So often I was not able to see that; it was too far on the horizon. So it stretches me quite a bit, but it was real fun and very enjoyable experience. That was the first time doing bikepacking as well, so that was a new for me.
Yeah, same. I think there was one day where I was savagely unwell where you dragged me. So we can say that it was at least 6-1.
Yeah, I was cheating on that day.
A little bit. You're the reason I was unwell. That's why.
I'm sure you saw some beautiful countryside over that, and 60-odd thousand feet of climbing too.
Yeah, absolutely. The highest coal in Europe and the highest paved road in Europe, two separate things. But yeah, we saw snow, we saw amazing scorching weather, we saw everything, didn't we, Eric? It was it was incredible.
Bit of rain too.
Yeah,
I fully realize why the cycling industry moved to disc brake instead of rim brake.
Yeah,
that's this moment where you realize, yeah, that's a massive evolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super. Thanks for sharing that. I think looks like we've got our people. So let's get started, Get into the juicy stuff. I'm Rayleigh Harris. I'm the Humango Master Triathlon Coach. Triathlete, and I could say part-time runner for over 35 years. Having competed as a 16-year-old in one of the first triathlon series ever produced in Australia, so some time ago, multiple top 10 finisher at the World 70.3 level and age group world champion from 2016. I've been a full-time triathlon coach for 10 years, and I welcome you here today to be with us. I'll be your host. So today you'll hear from Eric Abecassis, founder and CEO of Humango. Eric's going to cover a brief history of AI, AI's role specifically in endurance sports training, and its integration into everyday life for endurance sports athletes. We'll also look at what's coming in the world of AI and endurance sports and how to take advantage of AI right now. I encourage you to stay with us to the end. We'll be randomly drawing 5 one-year premium subscriptions from the group of attendees that are still here at the end of the webinar today. We're going to run a Q&A. Coach Pav is going to host that for us, and he'll do his best to answer as many questions as possible. So a little intro for Coach Pav. Pav Bryan is the Humango Master Cycling Coach. He's actually won too many awards to mention, including the KCA Best All-Rounder 2 years running and the KCA 12-hour time trial championship 3 years running. He broke the world record for the fastest equivalent ascent of the highest peak in each continent, equivalent to about 140,000 plus feet of climbing in 6 days and 7 hours. He's coached world champions and, simply put, is a champion cycling coach. Today, you'll hear about Hugo, the Humango Coach Assistant. although Hugo won't literally be joining us today. For reference, and just so that you know, when you hear Hugo's name, we're referring to our AI coach assistant, depicted by the shiny purple sphere on the screen here. Okay, so to a burning question, how do you pronounce Humango? We've had a long running conversation about how to pronounce Humango within the organisation. And the reason for this, quite frankly, is that we're a team of international expertise. And as such, a lot of the accents can make Humango sound, well, like all sorts of things. But just for the record and to set it straight today, it is Humango. Okay, so to introduce Eric, I'm very humbled to do this. Our key presenter today is Eric Abecassis, CEO and founder of Humango. Eric is an ex-C-suite member of a Fortune 500 company. He's worked in the AI space for 25 years. He's a leader in his field, is a multi-time Ironman and Ironman World Champs qualifier. Quite frankly, again, Eric inspires us every day to challenge norms, innovate, and provide practical solutions for really big problems. He's a friend, mentor, and can I say, a pretty inspiring training buddy. So Eric, you've seen a lot of changes, advancements in technology throughout your career, which began with the AI work you conducted in the late 80s. Take us through a brief history of AI, how in essence AI works, and the differences in technologies that all of us here today might experience in our everyday life. Over to you.
Thank you, Ray, for your introduction and your kind words. So going with a little bit of history and don't be stuck on the dates. I just had to pick some dates to represent a timeline. Things can move a little bit. But if I go back to at least my origin, there were a lot of things done before, obviously. But when I started computer science and doing also artificial intelligence in the late 80s and early 90s, there were basically two schools of thoughts that were basically fighting for the AI battle. There was the logical brain and the data brain. So in the logical brain, what we were trying to do at the time is to bring all the logic rules that you need to be able to operate in the world, and let the computer dealing with those logic rules and find a way to solve problems. That was somewhat successful, but over time very, very challenging, because it was always very difficult to be complete enough with all the rules that we need to find solutions, and a lot of that related to common sense. So another school of thought at the time was what I call the data brain, and that was the start of the neural net. And the idea was that we can reproduce a little bit of the way the brain, human brain is working, or general brain is working, and build this what so-called neural network that will help the computer to analyze a lot of data and to process through a lot of data, and then basically find a solution or find a tuning where we will be able to use that to predict some possible outcome. The problem in the 90s is that computing power was not there for this machine learning approach, and nor the storage capacity was not there. So it was a good theoretical approach, but not really a practical one. And then I will jump to 2010. In 2010, massive progress on something that may look pretty stupid, but the computing power and the storage power had many order of magnitude bigger than what it was in the 90s. And that's where this concept of big data and machine learning started to take some real ground, because now we have the capabilities of processing this massive amount of data to train the machine learning and teach the machine from the data how to solve a problem. and we have the computing power to do so. So that's the era where in the enterprise industrial data world that there is this say of data is the new oil. It's becoming the big value, and everybody's looking at that. And I will jump to 2014, and here a little bit of interpretation again on picking 14, but I will say that's really when the cloud computing started to establish a real ground. I mean, Google Cloud was there since 2008, but it was very embryonic at the beginning. And 2014, it allows now to scale virtually infinitely our capacity in computing power and storage. And that now, combined with this approach of big data, enable a completely new kind of applications for AI and machine learning. So now the logical brain is a little bit far behind in that sense, and everybody's talking about machine learning. It's still maybe not in the prime time. People start to see AI popping here and there, but not definitely in their daily life. And then we go to 2016, and 2016 is a very important milestone because that's the first time a computer was able to beat a world champion at the game of Go. And the game of Go, for those who do not know the intricacy of it, is a game with virtually infinite possibilities. So it's not like chess. Chess is very complex and a lot of possibilities, obviously, but there is still a finite number of solutions, and you can build massive libraries of movement on the chessboard that can help the computer cheating, so to speak, leveraging its big memory. But AlphaGo was really using AI, machine learning, and some specific aspect called reinforcement learning to find a solution, the best solution, and was able to beat. And 2016, it was beating pretty well the world champion. I think a couple of years later, with the improvement of the technology, it was absolutely impossible for a human to beat AlphaGo. And that was a big milestone in the progress of AI. The next point I would like to bring, obviously, is the one that is in everybody's mind, is 2023 with ChatGPT and coming live with the first time a computer can tell stories. That's the way I like to frame it. And now leveraging the massive computing power, massive storage, those companies have been able to build huge model processing, a lot of data coming from the internet, and now being able to engage a human in something that looks like a real conversation. There is something for the techies in the audience called the Turing test, where it is about a human being able to detect if they are discussing with an AI or discussing with a human, and ChatGPT, along with a couple of others, are now able to break the Turing test, which was always considered as a hallmark of bringing the level of intelligence. So we're really approaching a different era, and that will continue. We'll continue to see massive progress in the underlying technology that will enable more and more of these things. And that's the backdrop of what we are working in. So in this environment, I would like to clarify the difference between the classic programming, where basically for decades now, we've written code, programming code, and tell the computer how to solve a problem. We are following an algorithm. We are explaining step by step how to solve the problem. We are guiding the computer to do all these steps. It does that in some ways very quickly for calculating things, and that's how it solves a lot of problems. Now, when it comes to AI programming, it's a little bit the reverse. Now we tell the computer what the problem is, and we'll let the AI algorithm to find a solution to the problem. So that's the fundamental shift. And going back to my logical brain, we were trying to teach enough rules, and that was always difficult. But here we're letting the computer searching through all the data to find a solution to the problem that we are posing to it. So that's a big change, and that brings tons of application. Of course, you see that in your daily life in many ways, some good and some not so good. But I wanted to show the main type of work that an AI can do, and we'll come back on that later when we come to discuss about AI in endurance. So one thing is the prediction. Basically, you teach the system to recognize a signal, a pattern in a massive amount of data, and then the computer learn how to detect these patterns and be able to detect that in a way that could be very difficult for a human. That is interesting, but there is something to always remember about these predictions, is that the computer is completely unable to predict something if it has never been seen, if it's outside of the boundaries of what we teach the system. So that's always good to remember. It's not really a crystal ball that can see the future. It's really only something that when you teach how to recognize something based on massive amount of data and tell the computer that's what you are supposed to find, then it's going to learn. And if it's within the same kind of range of data, then it will be able to do some very good prediction. Another one is classification. A fairly straightforward, simple, well mastered now AI capabilities, where you basically give a complex set of information, and you try to classify for each of these items where it belongs. So this is something that the computer and AI algorithm are doing really, really well. Computer vision, obviously, we see that more and more in our world, from facial recognition and so on. Again, here we have to remember that a computer vision algorithm need millions of images to be able to start learning how to detect a dog. It takes probably 4 or 5 images of a dog for a little human baby to recognize a dog. So there's still a room for growth there. But still, with brute force, it does pretty decent job. And as this brute force is becoming stronger and stronger, it's capable of handling more and more. Coming to optimization, often forgotten as a key part of AI, and definitely not at Humango, where it is a key part of what we are delivering. The optimization is you are searching in a vast space of possible solution, and you're searching for the best solution. And if you search one by one in a classic programming type of approach, it will take the end of the universe to find your solution very often. So you have to use some smart algorithm that are AI algorithm for optimization to search through that problem space, and we'll see that later how that applies to training plan, which is a big application that we have. And then obviously natural language. It was really a field with baby step until the LLM, the large language model, and the ChatGPT coming there as one implementation of a LLM, large language model, that is available. And we've seen how impressive it is in being able to interact with people in this natural language. Now, what we are doing at Humango, and that's a challenge that everybody is really actively searching for solution, is how we leverage these natural language capabilities to turn that into an agent that is able to help me in a specific field, that is able to take action on my behalf, and so on. So that's where there is still quite a lot of progress to be made, and we are working actively in that direction. So, as I said, it's not a crystal ball. It's not a magic wand. There are things that it does really well, and there are also a certain number of limits. So don't think about AI as this superpower that can solve every problem. There are many situations that will basically make the AI fail. And that's why we've seen across the last 15 years of active AI project in many domains where they've spent a huge amount of money, we've seen a lot of waste and a lot of project and product failing to deliver on their promises, because it is not a magic wand. So I try to highlight three main categories. There are many more reasons for failing, but the first one is noise in the data. If you are getting a lot of data, but there is too much noise to the point that it's very difficult to almost impossible to find the signal, I mean, it's going to be very hard. And the more noise there is in the data, the more data you need. And we're not talking about one person doing training for 10 years. We are talking about billions of people training for hundreds of years to be able to accumulate enough data to be able to derive much more than we're capable of deriving from the data today. So we have to be humble. We are dealing with small volume of data in our endurance sport compared to even what exists in a car. I mean, a self-driving car will probably generate billion of data item every day. And we have been waiting for the self-driving car for many years. So noise in data is a big one. The overfitting. So the overfitting is, the analogy I have is the teenager doing his or her homework and trying to repeat the same exercise again and again. But when the exercise is slightly differently presented, the student will fail. And in similar ways, when we are trying to be so specific that with our training data, when we're trying to teach the AI how to solve a problem, we are so specific that the AI is very capable of solving the problem within the training data set. But when it comes to the real data set, it has a lot of difficulties, and that's very often a problem that a lot of AI's solutions are facing. And the last one is, what are the external factors? We're only measuring what we're measuring. And again, to take ground in the context of the endurance athlete, there could be external factor. I mean, you could be depressed. You can have a fight at work or at home, and those will have a huge impact on your training and your response to training. Except that maybe we're not really capturing that information. So now we're trying to make correlation and find signal in the data, but we're missing a big item that is actually the driving force for the results that you're getting. You can just be not in the right mindset at a point in time. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that we have to take all this AI with a grain of salt. It's a super tool. It's amazing what it can do, but it is not a magic wand, and it cannot solve all the problems. So one approach that I like to illustrate, coming from one of my mentor on AI, is that if you cannot solve the problem, just change the problem. And it is using the roulette game. So if I'm trying to build an AI that will predict with 99% accuracy what's the next number to come, obviously, if I can do that, I will be very rich, but except that it's not possible. I don't have enough data to do that. There is too many complexity to the problem. It's still almost kind of deterministic, but just out of scope of what AI can do. But now if I rephrase my problem and really consider that what I'm doing is just to try with 51% chance being able to predict what is the next color, and I use that smartly, I can become very rich and I can beat the house. So it's all about how you phrase the problem and how you are approaching that you can get some just an unrealistic result and never achieve, or you can actually do something quite well. So just to finish on that, I just would like to highlight, okay, we've seen a lot of AI product in the scope of the industrial world, a lot around predictive maintenance, failure prediction, and so on. And there have been a certain number of success, but you can imagine that a machine being monitored with millions of data points, many sensors, continuously monitoring, it's a fairly simple problem to solve. I talked about the self-driving car a little earlier. We know that we've been promised the self-driving car for 10 years. It still always looks like 5 years away. And I think it's going to continue to be 5 years away for some time. It will eventually come. But again, this is a complex problem because driving a car in the world is a much more complex problem than just monitoring an engine or in a power plant. Now, what is the most complex engine that we know? Obviously, that's the human body. That's extremely complex. I mean, the self-driving car feels relatively simple compared to that. And that's what we're trying to do in that context. So again, we have to approach that with a lot of humility. There are things that we can do and things we cannot do. And that's the approach that we have at Humango, trying to leverage smartly what the technology is capable of doing, and then rely on expertise and science for the rest, so we can combine all these different elements.
Wow, Eric, there's so much there. Thanks for that. I think every time I listen to that history lesson and see how quickly you get to today and the problems that we're solving, I can't help but get excited about what's coming in the future. But I think more importantly is that the perspective over time just reminds us of how far we've come. And you talked about decades of time there, but especially when examining, such extensive changes in technology, it reminds me, and I guess it's almost borderline entertaining to reflect back on my early interpretation, of terms like the cloud or machine learning. What's machine learning? How does a machine learn? Or even, let's go even even further back to the web or the internet. These terms that were just so foreign, relatively speaking, not that long ago. So yeah, thank you for, I think that overarching but very useful understanding of where AI has come from to now. So given all of that, I know you're going to share the role that AI plays in endurance sport, but I think even more importantly, how can it help our listeners today?
So I'll go into just a little bit of this AI in the endurance sport. So of course, the magic bullet is really, I'm going to take all this data from all these people that are exercising, and then I will create this magic engine that can digest all that and turn that into a training plan. I hope I gave a certain number of elements for the listener here to understand that's probably not very realistic. We just don't have enough data. There is too much noise. There is too much external factors that are in play. And if we just take this bold approach, I don't think that we're able to reach something. So I will highlight a certain number of elements on how AI can be used in the context of endurance sport, and based on what I explained earlier, I hope you will be able to reconnect those dots. So the first one is anomaly detection. So we have a lot of sensors we're using. Many of these sensors can be faulty. We have seen like the restart rate is definitely a big culprit here. We can have altitude data that can be wrong, changing with just the weather, or we simply can have someone just getting in the car and driving and forget to turn off the watch, and then you get to this incredible speed without putting much heart rate in place there. So that is a relatively a simple problem statement that that AI can definitely help by baselining this machine learning engine based on your own data, understand what to expect there, and from that be able to remove the anomaly detection. Now, it is important to note that sometimes there is also some external factor that we will not be able to account for. And that's where the human override is important. I mean, the classic example will be you're going to run on sand, and clearly you're not going to be able to run at the same pace. But if I just look at this, that will look like an anomaly. So those are the things where you want to have the human being able to be in the loop there to adjust that. The second one is the athlete classification. So we have all these data. I say predicting exactly what we need to do can be a little challenging, but on the other end, just being able to classify what type of athlete you are, that's a much approachable problem statement. And we have some element of that in Humango. That's definitely a topic for us to continue and improve there. Working more and more. So at the moment, I will say we're a bit conservative in the model that we've done, but we're exploring ways to extend this classification so we can fine tune the training strategy that we will apply to the different users and athletes based on that type of information. The Holy Grail, the fatigue and performance prediction. Again, here, you can be as ambitious as being able to predict the exact performance of someone at a race if they train starting from the couch. But my take on it is that it's a very hazardous exercise, again, because there is so much unknown in the human body. If it's someone who has been performing and just going back to shape, that's a much simpler problem statement. But if you're trying to predict someone that you don't know and that may not have pushed to this kind of training, that's going to be a very difficult. That's back to my point earlier on when I said that the prediction is not a magic ball, it's not a crystal ball. It's something that within the boundaries of what has been seen. So if you have someone who did not train before and start training, predicting how far she can go is a hazardous exercise. But on the other hand, we know certain rules. So if we keep it simple, then we can say that based on a certain direction of training and a certain strategy of training, you will improve. How far? That's always a challenge. We have a lot of users asking us, I would like to know how far I'm going to get. How far? It's a very hard problem statement. But knowing that you will go as far as you can go, pretty much, that I can claim. I just cannot claim what is this mark there. And so that's where we are using fatigue and performance prediction within our engine, but we are trying to keep it simple so it's a bit more realistic rather than that's the roulette game again. Okay, we're trying to be simple enough that we can have a good prediction from that without trying to be too ambitious and be able to predict exactly to the second what will be your race time. Now, just be clear when I say that, as we have just rolled out the race planner. The race planner is using your current fitness to predict your race plan. That is very accurate. What I said is not always easy to predict is what could be your threshold pace or threshold power if you train for 6 months within that regime. If you've never done it, that's where it's becoming a bit more challenging. So just make sure I'm not introducing confusion with our listeners. The next piece is the training plan optimization. So, and that's an optimization problem. There is all the workouts in the world. There is all your constraints about where you are and your availability and how we will generate a training plan that follows a certain strategy, that follows your availability, that respect your body and will train you in the best possible way. And that's really where we have been focusing historically most of our effort, and we are improving on the other domain now. But this training plan optimization still leveraging first science principle, still leveraging that behind the scene, we have our master coaches writing different strategy for different type of goal, different duration of goal, different type of athlete profile. And that's what is being consumed by this optimization engine to generate a training plan. We are not pretending that we can create a training plan out of thin air that will know better what is a strategy for a given individual. We're still leveraging this athlete classification, the fatigue and performance prediction, your availability, the coaching strategy or training strategy that our coaches have established for the different type of events, different duration, different athlete to generate a training plan. So that's where I continuously insist on this balance. And then obviously the AI coach bot, this LLM, as I said, it's a journey. We are in the early part of that journey. We focus mostly on action today rather than conversation. So that can sometimes be a little frustrating for some people. It's not as fluid as when you're dealing with ChatGPT. But we are currently working actively on something that should be delivered probably by the end of the summer or early fall, that will give that fluidity back into the game. But that's where there is a huge potential, because this AI coach bot can be the motivation force guiding athletes in a human language that can help people stay on top of their game and stay motivated. So that's why I say work in progress there. But that highlight really where the AI can play a role. There maybe one piece that I've maybe not highlighted enough in this chart is really about the derived metrics. But I'm always a little bit cautious with derived metrics, because the more artificially created the metrics is, sometimes it's hard to know if there is a real correlation with the real world. So we keep more the approach of simpler is better there too. But that's also something that the AI can do well in terms of combining a lot of data into a metrics identification that can give a trend or a direction for how you're performing.
Yeah, spot on. Eric, you've just outlined the intersect, haven't you, of the data, the AI optimization engine, and the human experience. And after all, we're all humans living in the human world, having a human experience. And I think this really highlights the power of the problem that you've solved here. I guess in a way, we could have almost considered that what you've proposed here today, maybe 10 years ago, was just a fantasy, completely out of reach. But with the context of the advancements of the technology, over the last decade, rather than it being a concept, we have now made it a reality. And I think really bringing those mechanisms together that you described in that last slide, can you take us on a deeper dive into Humango's optimization engine and how that actually works for the Humango athlete?
Sure, right. So that's the diagram we have on our current website representing the optimization engine. And again, it's so this is an optimization. We are searching through the entire problem space, which is any combination of workouts throughout the week. What is the ideal combination of workout for granularity reason? We're usually doing that as a week by week, but looking at the past weeks as well, of course. So we are exploring all of that, but we need to basically explain to the engine what is a good plan and what is an acceptable plan. So in that sense, that's where we start with availability. So our listeners who have been using the product, they know about this default availability and exceptional availability. by the way, we are working at making that much, much simpler. We learn a lot from your feedback. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be describing when you can train, what you can do, if it's an indoor and outdoor, how much time do you have, and so on, how many hours you want to train. All these concepts are driving what's acceptable and what's not. And that's kind of one of the key elements that the planner is going to start from. And then we'll look at the athlete profile. We try to understand the classification I talked about to be able to pick, obviously, the right training strategy. So we're going to combine the athlete profile with the goal target to derive a strategy, and the strategy will specify the duration of the workout, the energy system that need to be hit in what proportion, and so on, and also certain specific type of workout that need to be injected in the training for some reason, like working on your cadence or working on your form. And that's what's describing. So we combine this athlete profile with the goal to get a training strategy in place. We have a lot of coach best practices that are, let's say, hard-coded in the engine that we teach the system. You cannot violate that. And those things are things like, okay, you cannot push the load that you're pushing on the stress that you're pushing on the athlete indefinitely. You need to respect that they can only increase their fitness by so much per week. That so much is adjustable. For our users, that's the fatigue tolerance that will play there. But the fact that there is a limit, it's a coach best practice. And things like having 2 hard workouts in a row, we have to make sure that this is not happening without context, and you should not have 2 hard workouts unless you're reaching the limit of what you're capable, and your body still can deal with that. But those are the kind of rules that we have in the system. As I mentioned, we are doing this prediction on fatigue and fitness, and that's also used by the engine to derive, okay, we need to maximize the fitness while not reaching certain limits in terms of fatigue. And obviously the health status, that is where you are at a given point in terms of what is coming back from your qualitative feedback or your health device, resting heart rate, HRV, and so on. So it's combining all these elements and also using, as I said, what has been done in the past couple of weeks. So we understand where you are, you understand what you've done, how far of a ride you've done, and so we're not pushing you too hard. And also time in zone, making sure that you're not going to get a massive amount of intensity if you've not been training that much in intensity. So we're going to inject that progressively. Now, the thing is that because it's consuming all this data point, sometimes it can be a little challenging to make sure that the AI got all the right information in order to generate the plan. So we've seen quite a few situations where we have to make a few adjustments. We are working at making more and more of that automatic and making more and more recommendations, so you don't have to struggle with some of the configuration of the setting. But the engine is going to continue consuming all this information. It's only that they will come more from recommendation than you have to figure out what to enter. But the power of the engine is still there and will still continue to drive all this training plan. At the end, it's really trying to find what is the best combination of workout that will fit all these different criteria.
To optimize the training plan for the user. Now we're getting into the specifics, right, Eric? You talked earlier about solving problems, or rather than solving problems, changing the problem earlier, which is effectively what Humango has done. You're now going to talk about the flexible solution that Humango brings to the endurance sports athlete. Things like, or features such as applying unique training methodology to different goals, to different level of athlete. Our friend Hugo's role in all of this, user inputs that can be independent of the AI engine, and even down to the absolute finite endpoint of how easy it is for the athlete to plan and even replan multiple times their training, as many times as they want. Really at the end of the day, the AI engine is receiving so much data, so much information. What does Humango do with that? And also just looking at the clock, we're in 45 minutes, and I know that there's some questions that have come in from our users as well. So maybe tying that user endpoint into some of the questions at the very end.
All right, I'll try to be brief then on that section. But going back to the optimization engine, what it's going to do is so it's going to consume all your settings, as I said, and combine that with the training strategy and try to find the optimal plan. So in order for the engine to be capable, you have to provide a certain number of information. And that's, as I said, where we are really working to improve the situation and helping you configuring the system in an easier way. So we've done a lot of things, improvements that will be released over the summer, as I said. But to start, I mean, you organize your season with your main goals, your supporting goals, B's and C's, and that will drive your periodization. So that's the first high-level structure of how your training season will happen. And then I would say the second step is to make sure that we have access to historical data that will help us making sure that we understand what you're capable of doing. Again, we have more of a conservative approach. So we've seen users saying, yeah, but why is that I have so little to do, never going to be ready? The problem is that if you start without any data and you don't even put your fitness manually, that is how many hours have you trained in the per week in the last couple months question that you have on the metric screen. It's going to be very hard for the engine to be able to produce something that you can actually achieve. So I think it's very important to make sure we have access to historical data there. You have to decide. Again, that's things where we're going to continue helping you making the right decision, but you have to decide if you want to have a preparation phase, just getting into the groove, into training, and make sure you don't get a massive injection of intensity too early in your season. You have to adjust the load recovery cycle. Today, that's a way you can do that by changing a 2 week to 1 week, or 3 week to 1 week, 4 week to 1 week, and that will drive your recovery session as planned by Hugo. You can adjust the volume according to your target. We're making some recommendation. I swear we're going to get much better in adjusting based on your target and the ambition of your target for your goal. But today you can already do that by adjusting manually the volume, the hourly volume, the number of sessions, and so on. You're gonna have to provide your training routine and your default availability. Yeah, one big change is how you assess your zone. Today, we're using kind of a mechanism that is monitoring on the fly from all your activities. It works for some people, not so well for some others, so there is some variation. But we're just about to release this inside testing, which will provide you lab equivalent testing for your LT1, LT2, so lactate threshold 1, lactate threshold 2, aerobic and anaerobic threshold. And if you're able to do that every 3 to 6 months, you're going to get super accurate zones, which is amazing. So we're super excited with that. And then if you are having some group workouts or doing stuff outside of the plan, the beauty of the planner is that it can adjust to that and take into account what you've done or what you're planning to do. So just make sure to add those workouts in your calendar as recurring workout or group workout or whatever they are. So the planner can know that and take that into consideration. And then from there, so the first thing is that it will make sure to honor your availability as specified in the routine and exceptional availability. Will respect where you are in terms of loading intensity, as I say, not trying to stretch you too much. It will follow the periodization, so which will balance the time in zone, targeting different energy subsystem, which is one of the key principles that we are following to make sure that we are stressing these different energy subsystem to train you and bring you to where you need to be based on the type of goal that you set for yourself. We'll include some specific workout type, as I said. We'll respect the priority. You will very soon be able to select your favorite workout. And so they will increase the likelihood of those workouts to be selected, which is great. You can have the workout from your coach. You can have the workout that you're creating yourself. And we're also gonna release very shortly the ability to use the WOW system workout in your training plan, so you will be able to train using WOW system for the Walugan in the audience. It will maximize the ramp based on your fatigue tolerance, so make sure to bring you to the best possible way. Reduce the training when your form is too low, and then always, as always, Hugo can step in and suggest to take some days off. But as I always said, if you feel that your legs are not here and the AI has not detected that, don't just let it go. I mean, you have to listen to your own body. All this AI thing is great, but you still are in control. You need to listen to your own body. And a couple of days off, as we have this adaptive training plan that can bring you back on track, is not a bad thing. It will keep you rested and able to perform at the right level. Yeah, I'll just finish with that, just to leave some time for questions. So at the end, what's important is to maximize the consistency, and it's also very important to avoid overtraining. That's why I just make that comment about don't hesitate to take a couple of days off or a couple of days easy. And the replan is at your fingertip. It triggers automatically in a certain number of situations, but it's always there to be able to readjust the track from where you are to where you need to be. So now we have this dynamic plan. We used to have very static plan that were completely static and not changing with anything. There have been the upcoming of semi-static plan that are trying to make some adjustment, but are very limited in their ability to completely rethink the way you have to train, which is what we're doing. As I said, every time you replan, we are recalculating the optimal path with all these criteria that I described before.
Yeah, spot on. Once again, getting to that human experience, the essence of what this is all about. Eric, did you want to spend just a couple of minutes going over what's coming up? I mean, as I've got to say, as an insider, it's incredibly exciting to know what's coming up for Humango users in the future. You know, you've covered the history of AI, how it works, why athletes can trust it, and how we optimize training plans for the users. Did you want to expand on, or maybe just some dot points on what some of our fans can look forward to?
Yeah, the list is long, so I don't know if we'll be able to get there with the time we have, but I think I insisted on this integration with Insight that will make those Insight tests available for our users. Simplify the user experience, simplify a lot this availability that was very powerful, but also quite complex to understand for our users. So we definitely are coming with a vastly different user experience. I mentioned the work we're doing on the Hugo chatbot, and there is some amazing results that we'll be able to deliver. I think at the end of the summer, we're changing the goal to be more dynamic, more custom as well. You can have custom distance. And you can also set some targets that will be fully accounted for in the training plan versus the kind of a manual setting that we need to have today based on the volume. Yeah, return from illness, injury. We have some partnership with nutrition app that will come. We're also gonna get from Insight a proper nutrition plan for the race or for the workout that will come. We'll have weather that is also coming. The race planner has been delivered already. We're doing some work on the mindset that is a little further out, maybe towards the fall or winter, and as well with the women's health.
Yeah, lots to look forward to, that's for sure. All right, so I guess now I'm just gonna step back right now and just hand over to Coach Pav, who's been curating and answering questions in the background. So I'll hand over to Pav, and he's going to bring some of the questions forward for Eric to answer.
Thank you, Ray. There have been a lot of very, very great questions. So I thank everybody. I'm actually a bit frazzled from answering all of them. So apologies to those people I'm not going to get to. I've been trying to list these down. Probably going to start with my favorite question from a user, which is what factors are considered when a replan is initiated? The reason I love this so much is, for example, if I were to accidentally do a hard group ride or run instead of a planned easy workout, is this accounted for, or is it merely a reorganization of workouts?
Yeah, great question indeed. So as I mentioned, we are completely recalculating the training plan every time you're clicking on this replan button, or every time Hugo decides that you need a replan. In this replan, we are looking at the past weeks and obviously the current week as well, to understand what you've done compared to what you were supposed to do. And when I say we are monitoring this fitness ramp, we are monitoring the energy subsystem, we are monitoring how much time you need to spend in each energy subsystem during the week, during this phase, during this goal training. Then if you accidentally do something that is vastly different than what was planned, that will be accounted for, and the remaining of the week and the following weeks will be planned adjusting based on that. So absolutely not just a mere reorganization of the workout, but really completely recalculating the optimal path, accounting for what you've done.
Fantastic. Thank you. One that's been a constant theme, actually, and we had this before, is how does Humango account for changes in thresholds, whether you can implement data as well from potentially a lab like the performance lab at HPH, and also accuracy of inside data. So there's a few things around threshold there, Eric.
Yeah, so threshold has always been a kind of an important point. We always had the possibility to add some manual test coming from a lab test or a field test to take over whatever calculation we are doing. As I say, the calculation that we are doing is directionally right, but it lacks a little bit of precision, if I'm perfectly honest. So I think it's good to see as a variation, but that was always a little bit of a challenge. That's where the inside partnership is really helping, because we'll be able in the first to get this threshold that will be estimated in a very accurate way thanks to their algorithm, and that will give our users a very accurate, actually not just threshold, but it's all the zones. We're talking about LT1 as well as LT2, and we know how much it is important to know what is the limit of your aerobic zone when you start picking in the fat burning and start to spend more coming from the carbs. So the inside is definitely key. We are working on the integration with the lab. Obviously, I mean it's the HPH lab at the moment, which is the top in the process. And where I want to bring that next is really to leverage the directionally right that we have with the threshold to make some more micro adjustment from a baseline that we know is accurate. And if you improve, there is nothing wrong about leveraging our current methodology to make those micro adjustments, but we will start from a baseline that is well established.
Perfect. Thank you. Really like this one. This is a common theme and something that I've struggled with in my ultra endurance past. Balancing work, family, life, and training on a daily basis for long distance events. Is it possible to make it along with the day job? How can Humango help?
Yeah, so I really feel, I mean, that was the starting point. I was an executive in a Fortune 500 company, as Ray mentioned. I had to balance indeed work and family and sport, and sport has been key in my life for the last 15, 20 years. So I wanted to make sure that we will account for that, and that's where these complex availability thing that we are simplifying to make it easier to consume for our users. But that's where the possibility of creating this exceptional event to adjust to, you're never out of the training. I mean, the thing I've seen so many people either giving up because they start to drift away because of the life is getting in the way, and that's normal, because at the end, I mean, we are human. We have a 360 life, and it's not just sport. So we have to accommodate for all these things. So we've seen people giving up. I've seen in my group of people, a lot of people being depressed when they are missing a workout. It can trigger depression type of attitude, and that's where really, with the possibility of replanning and creating exceptional event, and say, okay, yeah, next week I have this change, and I cannot bike that much, but I would like to refocus on the run instead, and keep the logic of my training, even though it's going to be disturbed a little bit, but within those constraints, then the planner will do its best to keep you in the right track. And that I think is really, really helping. Not to mention the fact that how many evening I was planning to train in the evening, and I had too late of a meeting, and I was obliged to reschedule and challenge to reach my coach at the last minute there to reorganize the training plan. But now the training plan is at the fingertip, as a click of a button, to change your constraint, change your availability constraint, and then replan, and then you are on track.
Thank you. And you mentioned Human Coach there. Actually, we've got a question and something which maybe even Ray can chip in on. I don't want to put Ray on the spot here, but can a user or coach build their own methodology into the platform so it prescribes some of their own sessions or methodology along with the Humango workouts?
Yeah, so indeed, as I mentioned, we are leveraging training strategies in the engine that is consumed by the planner to generate a training plan. Those training strategies today, we are allowing a coach, an athlete as well, but if you want to rely on the expertise of a coach, definitely that makes a lot of sense when you start manipulating at this level. So you can have a coach changing the element of the strategy, changing your periodization, changing the distribution time in zone, leveraging their preferred workout, and so on, instead of our library of workouts. So there are a lot of things that you can change in the strategy. Today, it's a one-by-one. We have created some custom training strategy for certain event, and the idea is, and something we want to push out for our coaches, is the possibility of creating their own strategy that then they would be able to apply to multiple athletes. So they can use the Humango platform to create their own flavor of training for a marathon, 70.3 or whatever, and then they can apply that to all their athletes in their group.
Thank you. So something which I'm actually quite interested on your opinion myself is, obviously we are taking a lot of data from a lot of different points. This data might not be 100% accurate, and this is something which I guess even a human coach is going to struggle with. Do we have any protections, or how is this addressed within the app?
Yeah, so we have, as I mentioned in this presentation, we have some outlier detection that we're using to filter out. We have a certain number of these outlier detection. We are working to continue and improve that, and because that can catch some of the big item, but that not always catching the more subtle one. So we're working to be able to catch those. That's also where you can always remove an activity from the analytics. That's something that you can do manually as a user if you know that something was really wrong in your result, or something that an external factor, as I mentioned earlier, that was not accounted for, that cannot be seen in the data but was still there. This is maybe a situation where you want to remove that from the analytics so it's not used by the engine to account for the future of your training plan.
Perfect. Thank you. I haven't been paying attention to the time, and we're well over an hour. So thanking everybody for attending. I think we're gonna continue and answer a few more questions after. But if you're welcome to drop off if you're ready, Eric.
Happy to answer a few more questions. I mean,
we can do a
as long
few
as we
more,
have
but yeah,
people online, we can keep going for a few more minutes.
I've got to really go on, right.
I just want to let everybody know who is dropping. You'll get a recording of this in your email, an outline of an offer if you haven't to date created an account in Humango. So look out for that. And we will announce the 5 winners from the people who are still on the call independently, privately. You'll receive an email if you are one of those lucky winners. So in case you're wondering if it's going to be a public announcement, it'll be something we'll just reach out to you individually. And for those of you who have to drop, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ray. So next question, which I really like, actually, because we've discussed this internally, is that how can the Humango training recommendation be benchmarked against other approaches, such as Human Coach? What do you think, Eric? Anything lining up some scientific studies in the future?
Yeah, as we have been growing steadily, we're now in a position to conduct this kind of analysis. Now, on the other hand, I really don't want to see that it's not a competition. It's a complementarity. What we want is to offer to a large number of people the possibility to start getting into training and structured training, and get with the science that we injected in the platform and the AI capabilities, the possibility to be guided. But at the same time, I think that we need to see that how more performant will be the coach with the technology. I mean, if there is something that I'm interested in, because it's a loop. It's a loop. The more the people will learn how to leverage the platform, the more the platform will be able to learn by itself. I mean, we have hundreds of millions of people that need to be more active. That's what I'm looking at. And out of these hundreds of millions that need some guidance and coaching and be helped along the way, there will always be a number of them that want to go to the next level up. And I mean, personally, my relationship with coaches has always been great, and it's a great experience. We just have to understand that there are things that the technology can do, and there's no point for the human to compete with the technology. They can fine tune it. They can leverage that and spend their time on much more valuable relationship. I mean, one thing I enjoy the most is to be able to converse with my coach, with my human coach. And the more time my coach has to do that, the better it's going to be. So if we can use technology smartly, that sounds to me more of the approach moving forward in the future.
So I'm wrapping up a few of these. Let me see. Did we want to talk a little bit more about how we will look at injuries very soon? We've had actually quite a few of this in terms of COVID as well. And I know we've obviously been discussing this internally. Do you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah, so we have some fatigue detection already in the system. We'll continue to improve this fatigue detection to be able to cover more situation or be more subtle in the analysis. But I think one of the big challenge we have, and we are been working to solve that. So there is something coming there as well. Is the coming back from injury. The coming back from injury has been a little bit of a challenging point for people to understand. When you're declaring an injury in the system, it's kind of a black or white. You tell the system that during that period of time, that's what the regime that needs to happen. Past that, the engines will resume the normal training. And if the break has not been long enough, then you still have in your history a lot of things, and maybe your fitness still fairly high in absolute sense. But the reality is that you might need ease back into training, and that was done manually so far. So you have to create those back from injury or back from sickness type of also exceptional event in the system. We have been working to automate that and provide automatically a conversation with Hugo to suggest a back from injury or back from sickness to get you back into the right level of intensity and training and duration. So yeah, we understand that has been a problem faced by quite a few of our users, and that's why we listen and improve that situation by having that.
Thank you, Eric. Something which we've had a few times is, how does Humango take into consideration background, phenotypes, stuff like that, including, you mentioned, obviously, women's specific training coming soon. We've got age. Obviously, age is a big factor for some people.
Yeah. So again, we focused first on building an engine that is capable of handling all these different parameters, athlete, phenotype, different response to fatigue, and so on, that could be impacted by age. So the engine at the core is capable of handling all these things. The thing is, how do we feed those data points to the engine? I have to admit that on the age side, this is still something that is a little bit manual, that you can adjust with your fatigue tolerance. You can adjust that with your load recovery cycle to fit your need if you don't feel that the default 3-1 is relevant to you, or you want to the planner to cut off a little sooner in terms of the intensity. So those things can be handled. We're working at improving that. The athlete phenotype classification, at the moment we have some simple one. We're working at improving this classification, but again, the beauty of what we build is that the engine is already capable of consuming all this different information. So now we can make small progress here and there, and that will improve and move to more automation. I think we have to think about that as more automation, more recommendation. We know we have to work on that and improve. But today, all of these are doable by manual configuration to feed all these data points to the planner and then generate the training plan accordingly.
Thanks, Eric. So we have one. What is the minimum amount of time for availability to be able to benefit from using Humango? I kind of like this question, actually, because it opens up, I guess it depends on the goal, but I'll over to you, Eric.
Yeah, clearly it's not going to be the same answer if you are training for a 5K or if you're training for a double Ironman or 100 miles ultra distance. So one thing is that today we have kind of a one recommendation with a volume that is coming out of the product when you create your goal. In this next release coming by the end of the summer, you will have several. We're also gonna look at the event, not necessarily just by the distance, but also by the time it's going to take you to complete that distance. Obviously, if you run a 5K on the flats, that's one thing. And if you run a 5K with 6,000 feet climbing, that's probably not going to take you the same amount of time, and that's not going to require the same type of training. So we are including all that into the system. So we'll propose basically multiple variation if you just want to finish, or if you want to have a good race, or if you want to do your personal best or absolute best time there. And that will derive from that the minimum amount of time that we recommend you to train. That's still going to be a recommendation. You still can go below that. We build a very flexible engine, but that will give guidance for most of our users who do not know necessarily what's the right volume based on where they are and what they want to achieve for their goal. We will measure the gap and decide how much of a gap it is, and make some adjustment on our recommendation.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, so I'm going to make this the last question. We started with something like this. We had a good joke. We've had some very good jokes about this. Just for one last time, with your French accent, Eric, how do you pronounce the name of our app?
Obviously, it's called Humango.
Humango. So thanks, everybody. Absolutely epic. We welcome you to email us further questions. I know I've had a great amount of fun answering nearly 100 questions in that time. And Eric, thank you for obviously for presenting. Thank you, Ray, for hosting.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks all.